My husband divorced me via text message and cleared our joint account. He had no idea what was coming. The message came through while I was helping customers in my boutique. I'm leaving you and moving to Miami with my 20-year-old girlfriend. I've already drained our joint account, haha. My hands didn't tremble as I read it. My voice didn't waver when I helped Mrs. Peterson choose a scarf. The only sign that my husband, the man I had spent 13 years with, had just shattered our marriage. With a text was a slight tightening around my eyes. I waited until Mrs. Peterson left, wrapping her purchase in our signature silver paper, before typing my response. Good luck. My name is Karen, and at 38 I had just received the most heartless farewell in history. While Michael likely reveled in his grand exit, imagining me in tears over his betrayal, I calmly locked up my boutique for the day. The signs had been there for months, late nights at work that never matched his salary, a sudden change in his phone password, the way he had started hitting the gym religiously, buying new clothes, trying to reclaim his youth. 3 months ago, I found a receipt for a dinner for 2 at an upscale restaurant on the night he claimed he was working late. That same evening, I opened a separate bank account at another bank. A week later, when he mentioned wanting to consolidate our accounts for simplicity, I eagerly agreed, transferring my personal savings to the new account. The joint account he had just emptied, it held just enough to keep him from suspecting anything was amiss. About 2 months of regular deposits. The rest was securely hidden, along with detailed records of every suspicious transaction he had made over the past year. My phone buzzed again. Don't bother begging. Francesca and I are leaving tomorrow. I'll send for my things later. Francesca, the new secretary at his office. I had met her at the company Christmas party. I'd seen her laugh a little too loudly at Michael's jokes, noticed her touch his arm when she thought no one was watching. She was young enough to be his daughter, naive enough to think she was special. I didn't respond to his message. Instead, I called my lawyer, the one I had consulted 2 months ago when I discovered a hotel charge on our credit card statement. It's time, I said. He had just made his move. The documents are ready, she replied. I'll have you sign them first thing tomorrow. Do you want me to serve him in Miami? No rush. Let him think he won this round. Another text from Michael came through. I know this must be hard for you. After all, you're not getting any younger. At least you have your little shop to keep you busy. My little shop. The word stung, but they also ignited a fire within me. I had built that boutique from the ground up, pouring my heart and soul into it. It was my sanctuary, my pride, and now it would be my weapon. As I prepared for the next day, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. Michael thought he had the upper hand, but he had no idea what I was capable of. I would not only survive this betrayal, I would thrive. Tomorrow, I would sign those papers, and with each stroke of my pen, I would reclaim my life. The world was about to see just how strong I truly was. I built my successful boutique from scratch, the one that brought in more income than his mid-level management position, the one whose profits I had carefully kept separate from our joint finances. I smiled, thinking about the custom letters that would greet him in Miami. Let him enjoy the moment of his triumph. That evening, I spent time in our home, my home since I had inherited it from my grandmother and kept it in my name, despite Michael's repeated offers to add him to the deed, another lucky instinct that had paid off. As I prepared the documents my lawyer would need, I stumbled upon our wedding album. Michael looked so different back then, before his midlife crisis turned him into a caricature of his former self. These days, he wore shirts that clung too tightly to his soft midsection, desperately trying to connect with the 20-somethings in his office, using slang that sounded ridiculous coming from a 45-year-old man. My phone continued to buzz with his messages, each one more condescending than the last. I've been planning this for months. Francesca understands me in ways you never could. Everything will be fine. Maybe you'll find someone your age. I've already told my family. They agree we've grown apart. Really, no one is to blame. I took screenshots of every message, adding them to a folder of evidence. Let him dig his own grave deeper. My lawyer would appreciate his careless admission of intent, his gleeful announcement of draining our account. The last message caught my attention. By the way, I used the joint card to book our flights and hotel. Consider it my parting gift, LOL. Perfect. I called the credit card company. This is Mrs. Thornton. I need to report fraudulent charges and cancel the card immediately. Of course, ma'am. Can you identify the charges? 2 first-class tickets to Miami booked for today, hotel charges at the Royal Palm, and I need to remove my husband from the list of authorized users. Do you have any documentation of the fraud? Text messages from my husband admitting he used our joint card to book a trip with his girlfriend after draining our bank account. I'd be happy to forward them. The professional tone of the representative couldn't hide her satisfaction as she canceled the charges. Tomorrow, Michael and Francesca would arrive at the airport to find their tickets canceled. Their hotel reservation would be voided. My phone buzzed again. Don't worry about the house. I'll let you stay there until you find something smaller. I actually laughed out loud at that. Did he really think he had any claim to my grandmother's house? Had his ego grown so large that he forgot whose name was on the deed? Another high. And I know how much that shop means to you. We can negotiate a fair payment for your half, my half, of my business, the one I built myself, funded myself, nurtured myself, while he complained about my long hours and called it my hobby. As I sat there, I felt a surge of empowerment. I had worked tirelessly to create something meaningful, something that was mine. Michael's attempts to undermine me only fueled my determination. I would not only reclaim my life, I would thrive. Tomorrow would be the beginning of a new chapter, one where I would take control of my destiny and show him just how strong I truly was. I poured a glass of wine, the good stuff I had saved for a special occasion. This certainly qualified. Tomorrow, Michael would learn the bitter truth about ownership rights and separate assets. But tonight I would enjoy the silence and plan my next chapter. The morning brought a barrage of increasingly furious messages from Michael. What the hell did you do to our credit card? The airline won't accept our tickets. The hotel canceled our reservation. Respond to me. I silenced my phone and headed to my boutique. Friday had always been our busiest day, and I needed to unpack a new shipment of designer bags. Life goes on, even when your husband runs off with a secretary young enough to be his daughter. Around noon, his mother called. Karen, dear, Michael told us everything about how you controlled him, how you drove him away. He says you're being vindictive, creating problems with his travel plans. I put her on speaker while arranging the display. Did he mention draining our joint account and charging his and his girlfriend's tickets to our credit card? Silence. Well, he said you left him no choice, that you were cold and distant. Brenda, I have his texts. Would you like me to read them to you? The one where he bragged about taking our money? Or maybe the one where he mocked my age? Another pause. He did seem a bit cruel. I told him that text message was inappropriate. I appreciate the call, Brenda. I've always liked you, but I think it's best if we end this conversation now. My lawyer advised me to minimize contact with Michael's family during the litigation. Litigation? Already? Goodbye, Brenda. By evening, Michael's sister Samantha was spreading family gossip through mutual friends. Apparently, Michael and Francesca were stuck in a budget motel near the airport. Their dreams of Miami had temporarily derailed. He tried using his personal credit cards, but they had been maxed out for months. Another red flag I had noticed. My lawyer called with the latest news. An emergency hearing was scheduled for Monday. Given his admission of draining our joint account and documented credit card fraud, we had every opportunity to freeze any remaining assets. Has he been served yet? Not yet, but he would receive the documents at his new motel. By the way, your ex's girlfriend's social media provides excellent evidence. All day she's been posting about their adventures, including several comments about you. I smiled, thinking of my own documentation, suspicious payments from the past year, hotel receipts, text messages proving intent. Michael was so focused on his grand escape that he never considered I might be watching, waiting, preparing. My phone buzzed with another message. You think you're so smart, but I had copies of all the boutique's financial reports. Half of this business belonged to me. I forwarded the text to my lawyer, adding it to Michael's growing list of mistakes. As I settled into my evening, I felt a sense of empowerment wash over me. I had built my life, my business, and now I was ready to reclaim everything he thought he could take from me. The battle was just beginning, and I was more than ready to fight. Let him learn the bitter truth about separate assets and business ownership through his own experience. Sometimes the best revenge is simply to prepare. The emergency hearing on Monday was all I could hope for. Michael showed up in his new youthful wardrobe, designer jeans too tight for his age, a blazer that screamed midlife crisis. Francesca waited outside, her youth painfully obvious in the harsh lighting of the courthouse. My lawyer methodically presented our evidence. Michael's gleeful text about draining our account, his credit card fraud, his documented history of hidden expenses. Each piece had been meticulously gathered over months of quiet observation. Your Honor, Michael's hastily hired attorney attempted to argue. My client acknowledges some reckless decisions, but Mrs. Thornton's actions have been vindictive and calculated. Calculated, my lawyer countered. You mean prudent? My client has been protecting her separate assets and keeping detailed records of her husband's suspicious behavior. This is not vindictiveness. It's smart business. The judge examined my documentation, the separate deed for the house, the business registration solely in my name, the careful separation of business and personal finances that Michael had always complained about. Mr. Thornton, the judge addressed Michael directly. You admitted in a text message to the intentional draining of the joint account and using joint credit cards to fund a trip with your girlfriend. Do you deny this? Michael shifted awkwardly. I was just trying to make a clean break. By committing financial fraud? The judge raised an eyebrow. And now you're claiming rights to property that, as the documents show, is clearly separated from marital assets? The business grew during our marriage. Michael's attorney tried again. My client has rights. The business was established before the marriage, my lawyer interrupted, and Mrs. Thornton has maintained a strict separation of business and personal finances throughout. We have documentation for every penny invested and earned. I watched Michael's face as reality began to sink in. He thought it would be easy to drain our accounts, run off with his girlfriend, and maybe take half of my business in the divorce. He had never bothered to understand my insistence on keeping things separate, mocking my meticulous accounting as obsession. The court finds sufficient evidence of financial misconduct, the judge announced. all joint assets are frozen pending final dissolution. Mr. Thornton is ordered to return all funds withdrawn from joint accounts within 24 hours. But that money is gone, Michael protested. We spent it. Then I suggest you find a way to replace it, the judge interrupted him. And Mr. Thornton, the court is very skeptical of using joint credit cards to fund escapades with lovers. Outside the courthouse, I heard Francesca asking Michael about their plans in Miami. His response was lost in the sound of my heels confidently clicking against the marble floor as I returned to a case he never understood or respected. The next few weeks brought Michael a series of increasingly desperate moves. He tried to claim the boutique was his idea. He reminisced about how he had invested money in the early days. He even suggested that he had been my business partner all along, but those claims were quickly debunked by my meticulous records. He's spiraling, my lawyer noted. From his girlfriend's social media, it's clear they're now living in her studio apartment. As I settled back into my routine, I felt a sense of satisfaction. Michael's attempts to rewrite our history were futile against the evidence I had carefully compiled. I had built my life and my business, and now I was ready to defend it fiercely. The battle was far from over, but I was prepared. I would not only protect what was mine, I would thrive in the face of his betrayal. The future was mine to shape, and I was determined to make it brighter than ever. Apparently, life on a secretary's salary isn't quite the glamorous escape he imagined. Michael's family began reaching out, their tone markedly different from their initial accusations. We had no idea, his sister Samantha confessed. He told us you were cold, controlling, that he needed to escape. But then we saw his messages, how he bragged about taking your money. This isn't the brother I thought I knew. His mother called again, this time in tears. What he said about your age, about replacing you with someone younger. I raised him better than this. I still thought the same. I sent their calls to voicemail. Their support might have meant something a few weeks ago, but now it felt like rats abandoning a sinking ship. The boutique was thriving, ironically fueled by local gossip about my situation. Women began coming in specifically to show their support, often leaving with far more than they had planned to buy. My ex tried something similar, confessed one customer, as she purchased a designer handbag. He thought he'd take everything in the divorce. Men like that never expect us to be smarter than them. My phone still buzzed occasionally with messages from Michael, his tone oscillating between anger and manipulation. You ruined everything. I never wanted to hurt you. You'll regret being so vindictive. Can't we figure something out? This case would be nothing without my support. I forwarded each message to my lawyer without responding. Let him dig his own grave deeper. Through the grapevine, I heard that Francesca had changed her mind. Apparently, sharing a studio apartment with a middle-aged man who couldn't afford his own place wasn't the romantic adventure she had envisioned. The age difference that seemed thrilling during secret hotel rendezvous felt different in the harsh light of reality. Yesterday, she posted about toxic relationships and learning from mistakes, which my lawyer mentioned during our phone call, and this morning she deleted her relationship status. I almost felt sorry for Michael. Almost. But then I remembered his callousness. Ha ha. After he told me he had drained our account, the careless cruelty of his comments about my age, how he assumed I would be helpless without him. Instead of pity, I felt something else. Pride. Pride in my foresight, in my quiet strength, in my ability to protect myself while he underestimated me. The final hearing in the divorce case painted a picture entirely different from Michael's imagined triumph. His cocky demeanor had vanished, replaced by barely concealed panic. Francesca was noticeably absent. She had moved on to a colleague her age, according to office gossip. Michael showed up in his old clothes. His designer wardrobe had apparently returned to help pay off the joint account he had drained. His attorney looked weary, likely from trying to find loopholes in my documented asset separation. Your Honor, Michael's lawyer attempted one last-ditch effort. Despite the separate documentation of ownership, my client contributed to the growth of his wife's business through moral support and encouragement. My lawyer interrupted him. For instance, those text messages belittling Mrs. Thornton's business as a little shop, or those social media posts where he referred to it as her hobby. The judge had clearly seen enough. The final settlement reflected my careful planning. I retained my home, my business, and my separate assets. As I walked out of the courthouse, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. I had fought for what was rightfully mine, and I had won. The future was bright, and I was ready to embrace it, stronger than ever. Michael collected his personal belongings and the car that was worth less than he owed on it. You destroyed me, he hissed as we exited the courthouse. I'll have to move back in with my parents. No, Michael, you destroyed yourself. I just made sure you couldn't destroy me, too. His mother waited outside, ready to take him back to his new home at 45 years old. The irony of his situation didn't escape me. The man who mocked my age was now living in his childhood bedroom, while I continued to run my successful business. You planned this from the start, he accused. You knew this would happen. No, I just paid attention, and unlike you, I understood the value of good record-keeping. His mother stepped between us. Enough, Michael. You've embarrassed yourself enough. As they walked away, I heard her start to berate him. Honestly, what were you thinking? A 20-year-old? Draining bank accounts? Sending those awful messages? I watched them disappear into the parking lot, feeling nothing but relief. Michael thought he was writing the ending to our story with that cruel text. Instead, he was merely setting my carefully laid plans into motion. My phone buzzed, this time not with messages from Michael, but with notifications of new orders from my boutique's website. Life was moving forward, just not in the direction he had envisioned. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, my boutique expanded and moved into a second location. The irony wasn't lost on me. While Michael struggled to rebuild his life, the little shop he had dismissed was thriving. I hired 3 new employees and launched an online store that was gaining traction nationwide. News of Michael's situation trickled in through mutual acquaintances. He tried dating apps but found that women his age weren't interested in a middle-aged man living with his parents. Younger women, having heard his story through office gossip, kept their distance. Francesca had apparently warned her friends about him, sharing screenshots of his desperate attempts to win her back after she left. His career suffered too. The HR department at his company began investigating his relationship with a subordinate, resulting in an official reprimand. The promotion he had been expecting went to someone else, someone without a history of inappropriate relationships with reception staff. He's trying to claim age discrimination, Samantha told me during an unexpected visit to the boutique. He said they're punishing him for dating someone younger. HR just added that complaint to his file. I was surprised to see his sister in my store, but her presence spoke volumes about how far Michael had pushed away his own family. I know we didn't support you at first, she admitted, running her fingers over a silk scarf. He played the victim so well, but watching how he's handled everything, how he's acted since, I'm ashamed we ever believed him. My lawyer kept me updated on Michael's ongoing attempts to contest the divorce. Each motion was denied. As I stood in my boutique, surrounded by the fruits of my labor, I felt a sense of empowerment. I had built this life for myself, and I was thriving. Michael's attempts to rewrite our story had only strengthened my resolve. I was ready to embrace whatever came next, knowing that I had the strength to face it all. The future was bright, and I was determined to make the most of it. His claims of unfair distribution were dismissed, based on evidence of his own actions. In fact, he tried to argue that his message about draining the account was just a joke, she told me, laughing. The judge asked if "ha-ha" made theft any less illegal. The success of the boutique brought unexpected recognition. Local business magazines wanted to feature my story, not as the scorned wife, but as a savvy businesswoman protecting her interests. Young entrepreneurs sought my advice on how to separate business and personal finances. The best defense is preparation, I told one young woman, who reminded me of Francesca. And always trust your instincts. Michael's mother called from time to time, usually after he did something particularly self-destructive. He tried online gambling, hoping to quickly solve his financial problems. He got involved in a pyramid scheme that promised quick profits. Each attempt to return to his former lifestyle only dug him deeper into trouble. I don't know where we went wrong with him, she sighed during one call. His father and I offered to help him get back on his feet if he would just take responsibility for his actions. But he still blames everyone else. You, Francesca, the judge. I listened politely but kept my distance. Their family drama was no longer my problem. My life moved forward, filled with plans for opening a third boutique and possibly expanding into luxury accessories. The only reminder of Michael's influence on my life was a framed screenshot hanging in my office, his last text before I blocked his number. Enjoy your little shop. At least it will keep you busy in old age. Beneath it hung my latest business award, proof that sometimes the best revenge is simply succeeding on your own terms. A year after the divorce, I held a grand opening for my third boutique. The event attracted local media attention, and the story they wanted to tell was not about my failed marriage. It was about a successful businesswoman expanding her brand. Michael's betrayal became just a footnote in my success story. During the event, Francesca unexpectedly walked in. She looked younger than ever, or maybe I just felt much stronger. She fidgeted awkwardly, clutching her handbag like a shield. I owe you an apology, she said quietly. I believed everything he told me about how cold and controlling you were, how you didn't support his dreams. Then I watched him try the same manipulation tactics on me when things got tough. I continued organizing a display of designer sunglasses. These weren't his dreams, Francesca. They were escapes. There's a difference. Now I know that. She paused, then added, he tried to come back when you froze the accounts. Thought my studio apartment would be temporary. 2 weeks after he complained about the size of my closet and suggested I take out a loan for a bigger place, I realized what you meant about the difference between dreams and escapes. I even chuckled at that. Let me guess, he had big plans but no way to finance them. Exactly. Everything was supposed to fall into place once his investments paid off, once he got that promotion, once his cryptocurrency definitely skyrocketed. She shook her head. I'm dating someone my age now. We have student loans and a small apartment, but at least we're building something real. After she left, my assistant manager whispered, "Was that the girl?" "No," I replied. "Just another woman who learned the same lesson I did." Speaking of lessons, I gestured to a young couple browsing our designer handbags. "Let's talk about your idea for expanding our accessory line." The boutique had become more than just a business. It was a symbol of independence, resilience, and the power of preparation. Young entrepreneurs often sought my advice, and I always emphasized the importance of protecting one's assets. Michael's mother called one last time, not to discuss Michael, but to thank me. "You taught our family an important lesson," she said, "about enabling bad behavior, about justifying cruelty. Michael still lives at home, still blaming everyone else for his problems. But we no longer defend him. That's your legacy for our family, showing us the difference between supporting someone and enabling them." I thought about that legacy as I considered plans for a fourth location. Michael intended to belittle me, trade me in for a younger model, and take half of everything I built. Instead, he inadvertently pushed me to become even stronger and more successful. My phone buzzed with a message from my lawyer. Michael had filed yet another motion to reconsider the settlement. The judge promptly dismissed the petition and ordered him to pay court costs. "Thought you'd like that," I smiled, imagining him in his childhood bedroom, still trying to rewrite the ending that had been set the moment he underestimated me. Sometimes the best revenge is not in getting even, but in becoming better. 2 years after Michael's cruel text message, I received an invitation to speak at a women's business conference. The topic wasn't about divorce or betrayal. It was about building and protecting a successful business. My story had transformed from a cautionary tale into an inspiration. During the Q&A session, one woman asked about separating business and personal finances. "My husband says I'm paranoid. This marriage means sharing everything." I replied, "My ex-husband said the same thing, right up until he tried to claim half of my business in the divorce. Trust your instincts. Protection is not paranoia." My network of boutiques had grown to 5 locations, each more successful than the last. The little shop that Michael had mocked now employed 30 people and had been featured in several national magazines. From mutual friends, I learned that Michael had finally moved out of his parents' house into a small apartment above a garage. He had to take a lower-paying job after his previous company downsized, eliminating his position during a restructuring. In his dating profile, he still listed himself as young at heart, even though his profile picture was clearly outdated. Ironically, Francesca had become a regular customer at my original boutique. She had earned a degree in business and started her own social media consulting company. "You inspired me," she told me one day, showing how a woman could build something long-lasting instead of succumbing to empty promises. I kept Michael's cruel text framed in my office, not as a reminder of pain, but as proof of how far I had come. Beneath it hung a plaque that read, "Success is the best revenge." At the celebration of the 5th anniversary of my first boutique, I stood before my employees and loyal customers. The space had transformed from a small shop into the flagship store of a thriving business empire. Michael's mother was present, even though I hadn't sent her an invitation. She waited until the crowd thinned to approach me. "I saw Michael yesterday," she said, smoothing her designer dress that she had bought in my store. "He was talking about his glory days, the life he could have had. He still doesn't understand that he didn't lose everything in the divorce. He threw it away." I thought about that text message, his casual cruelty, his assumption that I would crumble without him, how he expected me to beg, to break down, to prove him right in my desperation. Instead, I built something more substantial than before. Each new boutique was a testament to what women can achieve when they stop dimming their light for insecure men. A young sales associate I had hired last month, coincidentally also named Francesca, came to me with a question about the new inventory system I had implemented. As I explained the process, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the store window. I saw what Michael had failed to see 5 years ago. A woman doesn't age. She becomes wiser, stronger, and more successful. His cruel text was meant to be an ending. Instead, it was a beginning. Not just for me, but for every woman who heard my story and realized she deserved better than someone else's midlife crisis. As I looked around at my thriving business, I felt a sense of pride and fulfillment. I had turned pain into purpose, and I was ready to continue inspiring others to do the same. The future was bright, and I was determined to shine even brighter.